The American presidents for people like you and like me, or at least that's how the founders intended them to be. Hi, my name's Teddy Abbey. Welcome back to my reoccurring segment where we're talking about the president's nicknames. Last time we talked about the positive nicknames of a brilliant political strategist, President number 8, Martin Van Buren. But Van Buren himself had enemies who made up nicknames and insults against him. So this time we're gonna outline Martin Van Buren's 3 most popular negative nicknames.
You're supposed to throw things at him, scream, call him names, not do his blooming laundry.
For somewhat of an obscure president, he has some really intense insults attributed to him. His aforementioned political brilliance made him an invaluable ally to some and a bitter enemy to others. But we're gonna start with a nickname that pushes politics to the side and instead focuses on economics. Martin Van Buren was also insulted frequently in the press as Martin Van Ruin. This nickname comes from the fact that Martin Van Buren inherited a really shaky economy after his predecessor Andrew Jackson left the White House. After Jackson shut down the second attempt at a national bank.
I'm no First National Bank.
The public blamed Van Buren when the economy tanked in the Panic of 1837. Unemployment skyrocketed, businesses failed, and banks closed their doors. And the press, notorious for inflaming public tensions, latched onto this nickname and printed it in newspapers everywhere.
This is why I hate reporters.
The nickname Martin Van Ruin was everywhere. Political slogans, cartoons, and even songs featured the negative nickname, trashing the president. It was such a pervasive negative nickname that Van Buren's opponent in the 1840 election, William Henry Harrison, barely had to do any sort of negative campaigning. This nickname did it all for him. And that will swing us back into politics with negative nickname number 2. Martin Van Buren was hailed as the American Machiavelli.
They're gonna think it's some kind of Machiavellian Jedi power play.
For those unaware, Niccolo Machiavelli was an Italian philosopher during the Renaissance. He was famous, or rather infamous, for his political writings in his book, The Prince. In his book, Machiavelli advises the politicians of the day to, yes, be pragmatic, but also to be ruthless and to be feared rather than loved. Dragging it back to Martin Van Buren, American president several centuries later, he's seen in a Machiavellian light. Yes, he was a political whiz kid, forming coalitions here and there and everywhere, getting people on both the left and the right to agree to things they rather wouldn't. That often required a certain degree of political manipulation and Machiavellian tactics. To get what he wanted, Martin Van Buren would often step on the toes of friends and allies, and to him, I suppose, the ends justified the means.
You betrayed your nation, Bob.
And finally, we'll round out with negative nickname number 3. He's also known as the Dandy President. In the 19th century, dandy referred to a man who was overly obsessed with his appearance. A modern term for comparison would be calling someone metrosexual.
Must have been that metrosexual scruffle you got there.
While he did seize on the populism that Jackson had left him, he wasn't a military man by any means. Martin Van Buren certainly was a different man than his predecessor, and critics accused him of being obsessed with fashion, etiquette, and even perfume. Opponents from within his own party circulated cartoons of Van Buren primping and preening himself in front of a mirror as the nation's economy went up in flames. This negative nickname undercut any man of the people vibes that were given to him by his positive nicknames like Old Kinderhook. Not only that, but it served to make his opponent in the next presidential race look rugged in comparison. My name's Teddy Abbey. Join me next time when we talk about the 9th president of the United States, William Henry Harrison, and his 3 most popular positive nicknames.